name, but hello. um, and I'll just get started anyways because I know I sent this out late, so hopefully people will tune in. So
Yeah.
I will mute both of you, and then if you have questions as we proceed on through this, you can either drop them in the chat or tune in later. So all right, okay. So welcome. I'm excited. I had technical difficulties, like I was telling Julie earlier. I'm going to spotlight myself. And if, for those of you who do not know me, because I know some of you will be watching this on replay, my name is Brittany, and I'm from Toledo, Ohio, and I've fallen in love with the Lit Yoga method, and it's taught me a lot of things, but also I've learned and expanded my knowledge outside of it, and have applied a lot of things to my daily lifestyle. So I'm hoping that you will learn some things, and if you want to take notes along the way, you can, and after this, you'll be receiving a worksheet and also just kind of bullet points of what we go over today. So that way you can have some things in your little repertoire that you can add to your day. So my hope is that this webinar is literally for everyone. I wanted it to be for moms, for athletes, for 40-hour workers, average Joes and Janes, and even dads. So people who want to move better, or people who go to the gym all the time, or people who like to sit on the couch. So these are small things that you can add into your daily habits, like how to sit on the couch, how to get in your car, how to pick things up off of the floor. And I like to tell people that your body is different. So I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to give you medical advice. I'm going to give you the things that have helped me on a daily basis. And that if you have serious pain, please go see a doctor. But cater these movements to your needs. So why is it important to move daily? And I think it's important to move daily because, first of all, we were born to move. Our bodies were made to move. And we have a bunch of different systems in our body. We have our digestive system, we have our lymph system, we have a circulatory system. And all of these things need movement to move things around. So if we become stagnant in our movement, our systems become stagnant. And so, like I said, everybody's body is different, but I notice if I don't move a lot, I don't go to the bathroom as much because things aren't moving around, right? So you want to be able to move, when you move the core, that kind of stuff gets moved around instead of just kind of piling in one spot. So that's what I want to say about that. And so movement can heal. So in addition, so in your joints, so your shoulder joints, your elbows joints, your wrists, fingers, knees, hips, ankles, they have synovial fluid in your joints. So your joints aren't bone on bone. So there's stuff between them that help keep them lubricated. And it's when they don't move that things get dried up and crackly, right? We don't like that. We don't like when things start to pop or when things feel gravelly and crackly. And we want those joints to move. People typically think that, oh, I'm in pain, I should stop moving. And in fact, it's sometimes quite the opposite depending on your injury. And you want to move maybe the opposite side of the body. So if it's the front of your body hurting, maybe it's the back side of the body that needs to start becoming stronger and moving, so that way it can support the opposite side of your body. So movement can heal, and it doesn't always have to be a bad thing. It doesn't have to be this thing that injures you. And, just because, yeah, sure, if you keep using your shoulder in the same wrong way, it's not going to feel good. So maybe stop moving your shoulder in that way particularly. Not they should stop moving your shoulder altogether. So I drew this little picture here. So this is a bone, and this is a bone, and this is the synovial fluid that's between it. So I just wanted to kind of show you that it's a sac that kind of goes between those to depending on the joint. They don't all look like this, but there is fluid that's between it because bone on bone would just, hurt things. So where to go next? Also, I know another person tuned in. If you have questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat as I go along, because I know sometimes I just bulldoze through things. So the next thing I have to say is, so when we talk about movement further along, we want it to be aligned and stable. So we're going to go into posture and we're going to talk about what it means to be neutral here in a moment. And so typically pain, aches happen when we're moving out of alignment. So there's movement and then there's better movement, and everybody is different. So why doesn't movement look good these days? And it can be a variety of things. Modern day life has sucked us in, and it has just spat us back out in its comfiness. So we've been accustomed to a lot of sitting, a lot of standing, and a lot of bad components we've picked up either from our friends or from our family when we were growing up. And that's what it is. It's not your fault. You don't have to blame any one certain thing, because our brains absorb things whether or not you know it. We also are a technology age. So when we have our phones, we're all looking down. When we have our computers, we're all looking down. And it takes a toll on the body. So in addition to that, there's also misinformation that is spread. So everybody has their own opinions and they're entitled to those. But the problem is that people want to make money. And so corporations start to make you think a certain way that, stop moving, enjoy this wonderful movie, enjoy binge watching Netflix, enjoy this fast food while you sit in the drive-through. And that contributes to bad pain, or not bad pain. It contributes to not as good movement. And so things like, look at these awesome shoes, you should wear high heels to look hot and sexy. And it's like, those high heels are cramming your big toes together, and they are actually contributing to your knee pain. So the price of looking sexy, it's not to say wearing high heels is bad. It's just, wearing them 24/7 is bad, because, it comes at the cost of knee pain or hip pain or back pain. You name it, it's one of those. So yeah, that's that part. So let's start to make some progress in here. What does better movement look like? Okay. So it all starts with neutral, and this is where we start to maybe get interactive if you would like to. I'm not saying you have to move, but if you want a movement break for the day, you're more than welcome to. I'm going to mostly talk about a neutral pelvis. I'm not going to go all into posture, because that's a whole different workshop. But I wanted to give you all a few tidbits on what does a neutral pelvis look like, because it is our center of mass, and how you can use it to your best benefit, either when you're walking or running or standing, sitting, whatever it might be, because we do those things all the time. And it's, if you do that, how can you do it better? So I like to tell people, get your hands on your body, because you don't know what you don't know. And I'm going to just level this down. So this is the part where if you want to, do some movement, you can. You don't have to. Typically, a lot of people lock out their knees, and then you see how this starts to scrunch up. So I like to tell people, if you are this person, I put one hand on the low belly and one hand on the low back. I pull up the front hand and I lower down the back hand until my pelvis looks neutral. So what is neutral? You want the pubic bone and the tailbone to be in line. Yeah, you kind of got to get in there, but you want that. You want to feel like your low back is elongated, and then you start to have some abdominal tone. you don't want to overly round, right? And then you have the opposite of that. So there's a balance, right? And you'll know because the moment you lift that pubic bone up is the moment your knees want to bend a little bit. Now, if you're the opposite, you're going to do the opposite. So you want to pull that back hand up and the front hand down a little bit. So that is a posterior pelvic tilt. This is an anterior pelvic tilt. So you get to mess around and figure out what that means from. And then all movement that stems from the neutral pelvis is going to feel a lot easier and happier. And moving with a neutral pelvis has literally saved my right hamstring because I tore it a long time ago. So in addition to the neutral pelvis, another better movement looks like is what is your breath? What is your breath doing? What does it feel like? Are you breathing properly? Because as you move, we go on autopilot, right? We've been doing this thing every day, all the time, and it's just automatic. But is it correct? And so if you can bring consciousness to your breath, to your neutral pelvis, to the way you move, it makes your daily movement habits better. It makes them easier. It makes you more conscious of the way you move instead of going on autopilot and then stepping on that one step and then all of a sudden your ankle gives out because you weren't moving with a conscious effort. I'm not saying you have to, think about it all the time. Eventually, hopefully it becomes more automatic. But so neutral pelvis and then breath work. So your breath should be moving up and down, out and in, and front to back. So the neutral pelvis helps you access more breath, better breath. So I like to tell people if you are standing or sitting or moving in general, you want to have an engaged core with good breath mechanics. Now, that doesn't mean that you are clenching. It just feels like a hug. And everybody is different. So if you want to, you can take your hands on your side ribs and just breathe in through your nose and feel those ribs expand outwards. And on your exhale, feeling those ribs come together. And you can do that all across. And sometimes it's easier to do while laying down because it's more relaxing and your spine is a little bit happier. But you want to feel that expansion and contraction. So laying on the ground helps give you that extra feedback on your back to help expand that breath. So that being said, like a lot of people in the modern day picture don't have a lot of core, don't do a lot of core work. It gets skipped over at gym day and it gets skipped over when you want to watch your favorite show. And when we stop working the core is the moment that our extremities have to do too much work. So I have a bunch of videos on my YouTube page. Like I said, when I send you out this email after this, you'll have access to that kind of stuff and looking what abdominal work looks like, because it's not just 100 crunches. Julie and I both know that you can do 6 sets of Lara's abdominals in the beginning, and we've only been working for 2 minutes and my core is sore the next day, but I only did 3 reps on each side. So it's the intention of moving from a strong core. So next movement tip is lifting your head up. So anytime you notice your head start to droop, whether it's in plank pose, looking down at your phone, looking at your computer, walking, bring it back. Bring your screen to eye level. You want your head to be over your shoulders because we talked about that neutral alignment. And you can see if my head is forward, it adds more weight and stress to, in particular, this part of my neck. And you just don't want that. You want a nice curve here because your spine is curvy, but you don't want it to be like a bowling ball sticking off of your shoulders. It's heavy. And what's going to happen over time is your back's going to start screaming, and it's going to send all of its troops and reinforcements into this area to make sure your head doesn't fall off. Next, move every 30 minutes. So this is hard to do, right? We get stuck on a project, we're in school, whatever have you be. A great thing to do is set a timer. So throughout your day, set a timer. You know, it's, yeah, sure, it's nice to go to the gym and you know you're going to go to the gym for 2 hours at the end of the day, and you're like, oh, that'll make up for my 10 hours of not movement. Maybe you should get up, get a drink of water, get up, go upstairs, or go to the farthest bathroom so you can have a little bit more of a dynamic form of movement in your daily repertoire. A few more bullet points on better movement and what it looks like is, what's your quality of your mattress? How many pillows do you sleep with? How do you sleep? Because we do that for a long time. We can't not sleep because we need it to survive. And I sleep on my back sometimes. A lot of people are side sleepers and stomach sleepers, and that's okay. But I challenge people, when you come into neutral, how can you apply neutrality to the way you sleep? So if you know you have an anterior pelvic tilt, how can you find neutral when you're on your side? How can you find neutral on your stomach and on your back? Because yes, it takes a long time to transition to sleeping on your back. If you hate it, I'm not going to force you to sleep on your back. But also, if you're a side sleeper, what side do you sleep on? Does that shoulder hurt? So I challenge people, when you go to bed at night, can you buy an extra pillow to slide underneath your ribs to free up that shoulder? So I'm just going to show you really quick. What you would do is, like, let's say this is my extra pillow. I would take that pillow and I'd have all my pillows up here for my head, but I would put it underneath of the shoulder. So that way, when I lay down, I'm not putting a lot of force on this shoulder right here. It's kind of hanging down, and then I have my pillow here, and I have a neutral pelvis when I'm lying on my side. And then if you sleep on your back, you can always put a pillow underneath of your knee pits. So that way, your pelvis kind of tilts upwards. Next thing is what kind of shoes you wear. So how can you improve your movement in your daily life? Change your shoes. Flip-flops are just not great for your feet. They challenge the top part of your foot to always keep that flip-flop on when you walk. And if you're overworking the top part of your foot, not helping that bottom part. And then also, if you wear closed-toed shoes, what does that closed toe box look like? So you'll notice a lot of shoes have a very small toe box. And what that does is it squishes your toes together. You want your toes to be normal. You want them to be able to spread out. So I recommend barefoot shoes. There's barefoot shoes that also have support in the bottom of the feet. It is not something you should immediately transition to if you're super used to having arch support or very cushiony shoes, because the moment you go to barefoot, your feet are going to be like, ah, that sucks. And yes, it does, because you just went from like 100% to 0, and you want it to be gradual. So if you're someone who's used to wearing high heels, you knock down the heel inch every few weeks or months, depending on how your foot adapts. So I wear Vivo barefoots. My feet feel amazing. I love wearing them all the time. I also just hate wearing shoes in general. I wish I never had to wear them, but society has you wear them. And this is like another example of, like, you see Nike lines, Adidas lines, like, not to bash on them. Their shoes are great for some people. But at the end of the day, if you wear them all the time, your toes never have room to move. And then that translates up your body to your knees, up your body to your hips, up your body to your low back. And it definitely, like, I see it a lot in mostly inner knee pain, but you'll get bunions, you know, from just overly walking on the inside edge of your toes. And correct toes or toe spacers. If you've never heard of them, they are great. If putting things in between your toes freaks you out, you might have to get over it if you want to spread those toes back out. I know if you don't have toe spacers, you can also take socks or a washcloth and thread them through your toes up and down, especially around that big toe, because the big toe is what doesn't track. And I'm going to show you my foot. So when you're in those closed-toed shoes, this is what happens. And then you start to form a bunion right here, right? Or at least some people do. And then once you start to roll through the inside of your foot, it's going to make this knee track in, hence inner knee pain. It could also be an outer knee pain, but when you walk, then you're walking through that inner part of your big toe, and that knee doesn't want to go over the foot. It wants to go over that inside edge. Yeah. So knee tracking is the next thing. We go up and down stairs a lot. We walk a lot. We move a lot. So when you walk, I want you to think about, are my knees tracking over my foot? It's just a real easy question when I'm going upstairs. Or is your foot coming to the inside or outside edge of your foot? Is it going over your toes? Like, what is happening? You know, your knee going over your toes when you go downstairs is normal because we have to be able to stay upright. But keeping that knee over the center of your foot when you walk is also crucial. And then looking when you walk, are your feet like this or are they like this? Do your toes turn out? Do your feet face forward? There is a very small percentage of the population whose natural stance is going to be like this, but a majority of us are built like this. So is this how you walk? Is this how you stand? Do you stand like this? Can you stand in neutral? These are things you can add to your daily lifestyle. So when you walk, you're like, okay, my foot, I can walk backwards too. My foot's going forward. My foot's going forward. And then you'll start to notice that right foot, most people, it'll be slightly turned outwards. And that is just something you can work on as you walk to build into your daily habits. Last but not least, I have two more, sorry. I like to talk. Look at kids, look at how they move. Smaller kids in particular, their brains are so ready for all of the good types of movements. You'll see it in the way they squat, in the way they go to pick something off the floor, in the way they roll over, in the way they get off the ground. And they're so smart. And I love looking at kids like who are younger in my family. Like, I'm like, they're so like, I can't do that. So many people can't do that. And I'm like, they figure it out on their own. And then last but not least is the arms. We've been talking a lot about feet because your center of mass does come up from the ground into your pelvis, but arm pain in general, a lot of people think like this kind of movement out to the side is okay. I mean, I can do it with no pain, but some people can't. And so when you're reaching for something, whether it is a hug or into an overhead cabinet, you want your arm to go forward and upwards. And as that happens, so even like on pull-up bars and stuff, I like to tell people, take one hand to your ribs and reach the arm forward and up. And then this is the amount of arm flexion you have. Because if you don't hold those ribs down, this is what happens. You're like, oh, look, I got it. And it's like, you don't. Keep those ribs in. So this is a compensation that has to be retrained. Okay. Any questions so far? Is everyone good? Okay. Feel free, like I said, to hop in. So we have what better movement looks like. Better breath and neutral pelvis. Now, how do we translate it? Okay, when can we do it? I don't have enough time in my day. my life is crazy and I want to be better, or I only have time for 15 minutes. That's okay. You can figure it out. Like I said, I was going to give you worksheets. I think one of the best things you can do for yourself is to write yourself notes. Where are you at the most in your home? What things do you do most during the day? And that stuff you can pencil down. Like something I do every day is I brush my teeth. Something I do every day is I try to move for an hour. I definitely drive. I definitely try to go for a walk. So while I'm doing those things, I'm thinking about all of the good stuff. So I'm going to start with standing types of things we can add to our repertoire. And this is when you can also start moving. Thanks, Julia. It's good to see you. So what movements can you apply to your daily lifestyle? So the first thing is hip hinges. So what's one thing we do every day? It's probably bend over to sit, to get into our car, or to pick something off of the floor. And hip hinges are something you can practice with me right now. I'm going to try to send this back so you can see my entire movement better. Yeah, I want to make sure you can see my feet. Okay, so hip hinges are the proper way to bend forward. And this is something you can apply to when you go to the gym and do squats, to when you reach for your kid off of the floor, whatever it may be, hip hinges. So again, starts with a neutral pelvis. Core is engaged at like 20%. And what you're looking for here are the hips to go back and the knees to stay over the center of your foot. So your hands come to your hip creases. You find that squishy part right below your hip bone. So you find that, and then push your fingers back into your hip crease. And what you don't want to happen is this. Okay. If you notice this happen, reel it in. Push your butt back. Butt goes all the way back as you push into your hip creases. You don't want the knees to be too far back so your toes are lifted, but you want the knee right over, like I said, that center of the foot. And you don't want this to happen. So fighting the outer edges of the knees outwards. So when you do this, picking something off of a floor, unloading your dishwasher, right? This is something we do every single day. You want to push that back, pick the item off of the floor, take that dish out of the dishwasher, and then use your glutes to help you come back up. And you don't want to lift that chin. So another thing that happens when people have a bar over their head, right? This is what they do. Look at this. Look at this happening right now. That's not better movement. This is better movement. Core is engaged, my back is flatter, and my head isn't lifted. I want that chin to be neutral when I lift that bar and then come back up. So when you hinge, don't look forward. Your head's already a busy body. Looking down, coming up. So hip hinges are something I work on all the time. Literally, I'm pulling the pubic bone up, tailbone down, sitting back all the time. And it takes time to break the habit. So those are hip hinges. You can also do it when you're doing yard work. And when you transition to sitting on a couch, a toilet, or a chair. Hip hinge, find the chair. Hip hinge, glutes on, get out of the chair. Using your glutes to help you stabilize. Next, my favorite, I'm just going to leave this here, shoulder rolls. So lubricating the synovial fluid in the shoulder joint. So rolling them one at a time. You can do this everywhere. You can do it when you walk. You can do it at your desk, when you're chilling and watching Netflix, when you're driving through a drive-through, all the time. And you notice I have a slight rib turn here because my shoulders are connected to the ribs in a way. So being able to lubricate this in movement. What else? Walking with toes forward and knees tracking, we already talked about that. So it's important when you hip hinge. It's important when you go up and down stairs. If you have jump training in your repertoire, doing that. So if you're jumping, making sure that your knees don't cave in when you jump up or when you land. So film yourself if you don't know. Take a picture if you don't know. Calf raises and stretches. So inherently, most people's calves are weak. So almost done here. Stretching out your calves. So you can do this while brushing your teeth, standing in line for something, coaching, while seated, whatever it is. Again, keeping those toes facing forward. You can stretch it on a rolled up towel while you're brushing your teeth. You can stretch it against the wall. You can do calf raises while you're standing all the time. Rolling your foot out with a tennis ball. So if somebody asked the question before this began about plantar fasciitis, it comes from a stagnant foot that's just hasn't seen a lot of uneven surfaces. So taking a tennis ball and rolling out the bottom of your foot, I say a tennis ball because it's comfier and it's more squishy. So being able to do that is great for plantar fasciitis. And or picking a daily habit you do every day. You know, maybe it's taking your dog out into the yard, and while he's out there doing his thing, you can roll out your foot outside on one of his tennis balls. Yeah, it might be slobbery, but hey, you could also grab a new one. And then if you need to strengthen the foot, you can always place something down on the floor. This works on a hardwood surface, but grabbing the ground with your foot and then trying to like scooch the towel closer. So that helps exercise the bottom arch of your foot. So if you're someone who has a fallen arch, that's really good to picking up the arch. Neutral pelvis, adding it in to your everyday, how you walk, how you stand, when you run, think, pubic bone up, tailbone down, core engaged as you move. Breathing all the time. I have the shirt on, breathe. I think this is overlooked all the time. And this is something you can add if it's your baby's nap time, if you're feeling overwhelmed. Breathing is something that has been a part of my anxious lifestyle and mentality. And this is something you can add literally all the time. And when you're moving, it's more important. And then when you're relaxed, it can be a little bit looser. So when you're moving with that engaged core, you're really, honestly, you're working out your diaphragm. Your diaphragm is a muscle. It sits right up here. And every time you breathe, you're exercising it. And all of your core muscles, all of your back muscles connect to that. Your pelvis connects to that. You can meditate in the morning. You can meditate in the evening. That's great for breath work. I like to listen to my breath. What does it sound like? What does it feel like as I breathe? Another thing that's overrated is balancing on one leg. So being able to stand on one leg, maybe you stand on an uneven surface and challenge that knee to track. Challenge your foot not to turn out. Challenge your hip to stay in line instead of kicking out like it wants to. That's standing. Seated is a little bit easier. There's less things for us to do, but looking at what is your chair height? Are your feet dangling off the ground? That's going to add more stress to your body, or are they super high up so your knees are into your chest? Thinking about that. And you can add in spinal movement into your daily, like, oh, I need a work break. Great for lateral bending. Again, ribs down when you lateral bend, and also adding twists. So this is what I'm talking about, moving that digestive system, moving those systems around in there. Great for doing while watching TV. Last but not least, grounding positions. So These are poses to do on the floor. So when you're feeling lazy and you don't want to get out of bed, or you like to lay on the floor a lot like I do, a chest opener. So a modern day thing that you see, hunched shoulders. People who look like this, their shoulder blades are so far away from their midline that they're like, oh, my shoulder hurts. And it's like, well, yeah, look how far out of alignment it is. All of these muscles back here are doing too much work. And these ones are like really, really tight and inherently weak. So chest opener with pillows. This is something that is a wonderful, wonderful thing. You can take 2 pillows. I'm going to make this my second pillow and lay down. Place the 1 pillow on your shoulder blades, 1 pillow behind your head, and then just lay. I like to think ribs down, good breath mechanics, 3-dimensional breathing, palms face up. You can do this in bed, before you go to bed, when you wake up, 1 to 5 minutes. Super easy to add in, and it feels delicious. Supine twist. So when you're laying on the floor, adding a twist. These are also things you can do right now if you want to while you listen to me. We're almost done, I promise. Bringing your knees into your chest, allowing them to fall to one side. And you can bring your right arm up to noon if you know that your shoulder's really tight. And then you can work towards the opposite side of your body. And again, working on proper breath mechanics here. If your knees can't come all the way over this way, put some blocks underneath of it. Everybody's body's different. Figure 4, hips. They bother the crap out of us, right? If you're in bed, you can be shin distance away from the wall or a couch. Figure 4, cross your ankle on top of your thigh. You can do this when your child is having tummy time. If your dog's playing tug of war with you, that's like an extra perk. You can do this here, or you can also pull the knee in if you don't have a wall. Core work. I'm not going to do examples here. You can look up Lit Yoga, or you can look up some of the videos that I have on my website. But core work all the time. Getting on your hands. Quadruped, so hands and knees. You see kids crawling all the time. I dare you to crawl. I dare you to walk, bear walk. I dare you to try to run like your dog does on your hands and knees. That's going to force your core to work. And it's also going to stimulate your brain a crap ton. So those are some things to just add. They're all phenomenal. They all like light you up like no other. So in general, I like to tell people before you move, do it. Is your core engaged? Before you go with that super heavy thing, are you using your core? Are you using your glutes? Do you have that proper breath? And then do the movement. So move from your core and then use your hands and then use your legs. And then if you have that range of motion, if I'm driving in my car, right, and I know that I have a rounded shoulder, but I want to get that grocery from the back seat, I should probably get out of my car and get it from the back seat instead of reaching back, because I know I'm going to tear that shoulder muscle or something. Remember that you don't have to do it all in one day. So pick what's important to you. Where is your area of most pain? Or what area do you want to improve on first or the most? Pick that, do it 1 week, and then maybe add something on the next week. So adding too much at once is going to be overwhelming and then set you up for future failure. If you don't want, it's going to be like, it's too much. So add small things to your daily habits. Atomic Habits by James Clear is a good book that talks about how to add daily habits. Write yourself notes in the rooms you enter the most and add them to your daily routine. So write that sticky note that says, hey, stretch your calves while you brush your teeth in your bathroom on your mirror. Just things like that. Our pains, for the most part, are affected by how we carry ourselves. So moving from more neutral will help you in the future. Neutral posture. My posture workshop on my website, we go over all of it. It's helped me a ton. My shoulder used to hurt when I went on long walks. It's like, why does my shoulder hurt when I walk? Well, it was because I was very out of alignment and my shoulders were like this. And I was, just walking around and yeah, not good. So our bodies each have a unique bone structure as well. So also be conscious of your own body. You don't have to fit the perfect image of something. Everybody's body is a little bit different. And we all have different muscle functions. So you are right now based upon your habits that have happened in the past, and you don't have to keep doing those. You can get better, and it's going to be freaking awesome. So just like listen to how you carry yourself and feel how you carry yourself. And it feels icky, change it. Let's see. I think, and that's about it. I have common pains on here, but I feel like I already talked about them all. So this is what I have. If you have questions, please, if you're watching the replay in the future, you can always send me questions. If you're on here now, you can also ask me questions. It's been a trip learning about my own movement and also helping others. I see so much, mostly neck pain, shoulder pain, knee pain, and foot pain, low back pain as well. And it all honestly translates. I look at how they're standing. You should look at how you're standing. When you walk, do you make a thud when you hit the ground, or is it light and bouncy? So hopefully this helps you. Hopefully, I don't know, maybe it enlightened you in some things. But I will stay on for a hot sec if anyone wants to pop on and ask questions. If not, sorry for the technology difficulties, but I enjoy you being here nonetheless. All right. Well, I will jump on out of here. So thank you for joining. And if you want to check out my posture series, go ahead and check it out, but you will be receiving an email soon. So